They called him Arthur Bellamy, but most folks just knew him as the watch guy, because every day for nearly 40 years he wore a vintage wristwatch with a cracked leather strap and checked it obsessively, like he was always waiting for something important to happen. But the truth was, he wasn't waiting for something to happen, he was waiting for the perfect moment to begin. He was born in 1950 in Duluth, Minnesota, in a house that smelled like bread and mildew, the only child of a librarian mother who read him Hemingway at bedtime and a father who came home too tired to talk and smelled of diesel and disappointment. Arthur was a quiet boy, fascinated with time. He'd sit by the old mantel clock and listen to its rhythm like it was a secret language he might someday understand. In school, he was average, not the smartest, not the fastest, but careful, precise, always polite, and always hesitant to raise his hand, not because he didn't know the answer, but because he feared being wrong. That fear, like most fears, grew legs as he aged. By 23, he'd finished college with a degree in mathematics and a minor in philosophy, but turned down a research opportunity in Boston because he wasn't quite ready to leave home. He told himself he'd go next year, after he saved a little more, after he read a few more books, after he figured some things out. That became a pattern, always a reason to wait. Wait until the weather was better, until the market was stable, until the car got fixed, until the moment felt right. He worked at the same insurance office for 37 years, sitting behind a desk with a jar of peppermints and a photo of his parents, both long past, telling himself that this was temporary. Just a placeholder job until the real life began. He lived in the same apartment complex on East Willow Street, Unit 3C, where he nodded at neighbors but never truly knew them, where he watched the seasons change from a single window, each snowfall and thunderstorm another reminder that time was slipping through the cracks. He had one romantic relationship, a woman named Linda, soft-spoken, kind-eyed, a dental assistant who laughed too loud in movies. And he almost proposed once, had the ring and everything, but didn't ask because her mother got sick and the timing wasn't right. By the time he got up the courage again, she'd moved to Denver with someone else, someone who didn't wait so long. Arthur told himself that was okay, that life still had chapters to offer, that he'd travel, write, maybe even publish that book of essays he'd been scribbling into a drawer since college, but he didn't. Every January, he made a resolution to do something big. And every December, he looked back and shrugged, whispering, maybe next year. When his office downsized in 2012, he took early retirement and bought a brand new journal, writing on the first page, "It begins," but the rest of the pages remained blank for the next 11 years. His routines became sacred. Toast and coffee at 7 a.m., a walk around the block at 9, crosswords at noon, classic films at 5, lights out by 10. All while the journal sat untouched, his passport unstamped, and the books he meant to write slowly became books he reread instead. He watched friends retire, move, die, watched neighbors sell their homes and start new lives, while he stayed anchored to familiarity, comfort, hesitation. People called him reliable, thoughtful, polite, but never adventurous, never spontaneous, never passionate, and Arthur thought maybe that was fine. Maybe life didn't have to be loud to be meaningful. But part of him wondered if he'd simply confused safety for purpose, caution for wisdom, stillness for peace. When Arthur turned 70, he received a postcard from Linda, a simple note from Colorado with a photograph of aspens turning gold, and a message that read, "Thought of you today. Hope you're doing well. L." He stared at that card for over an hour, turning it over in his hands like it might reveal something deeper, something he had missed. He placed it on his bookshelf, right next to the unopened travel guide to Europe he bought in 1986. That same week, the building manager told him the complex was being sold, renovated into luxury condos, and Arthur had 6 months to relocate. He nodded quietly, thanked her for letting him know, and went back inside, where he sat at the table and looked at the only thing he had kept for decades, That old wristwatch. It still ticked. Still measured every second with patient indifference. That night, he finally opened his journal again and wrote one line. I don't know what I was waiting for. Then he closed it, placed it gently in a drawer, and went to bed. In the end, it was a neighbor who noticed the smell. The paramedic said it had likely been 2 days, peaceful, in his sleep. No family. No funeral. Just a city form, a death certificate, and a few calls no one returned. His apartment was cleared by volunteers. They found neat stacks of paperwork, an unused passport, yellowing calendars with hopeful scribbles like, "Start writing today," and "Call her back?" And in a box beneath his bed, 3 untouched suits still in plastic, 1 labeled "Interview," 1 "Wedding," and 1 "Travel." The man had been ready. Just not ready enough. The journal went unclaimed. The postcard was tossed in a bin. And as the world turned, no one spoke of Arthur Bellamy. Not because he wasn't worth remembering, but because he never gave anyone enough of himself to remember. He had waited for the right moment, and it never came, because moments, like people, must be chosen, reached for, lived in, not waited on like buses that might arrive if the weather holds. And so his life, full of almost maybes, passed like a quiet breeze through a locked room, barely felt, quickly gone, and never returned.